then I feel like this is going to be a great roundtable.
This will be a great roundtable, especially this is going to be about persist, pivot, or perish, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I think, where do you guys want to start? Any initial thoughts?
I think that we can start with introduction, and then I think that after introduction, we can get right into it. Kevin, you are here. Why
Yeah.
don't you start?
Yeah, so Kevin Brisebois, Director of Partnerships at Brinc. Brinc is Global Venture Accelerator. So we've invested in over 150 startups over the last 6 years. And it's been a really interesting journey. I've been with Brinc for about 2.5 years now, based out of Hong Kong. And engaging with startups, corporates, universities, government groups. So I get a really interesting perspective on how things are going in the market and some of the changes over time.
Samir, the stage is yours. Why don't you make
Yeah.
a quick introduction with Kevin and the audience, and then we can take it from there.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Samer. I can answer if someone calls me Sam. I'm the founder and CEO of Slighter. Slighter is a smart, connected lighter that learns the pattern of smokers and help them to reduce gradually. So what we do is we capture the pattern of smokers, where, why, how much, and when they started to smoke, using the last device been used before they light their cigarette, and then capture all this data, learn it, and then send them a reduction program according to what they want to do, whether they want to reduce or quit smoking. We definitely believe that they have to quit, though we cannot force them to do that. So it's a new proposition to help smokers reduce. It's a reduced risk product. We're based in the US, in Raleigh, North Carolina. And here we go. You will learn more about Slighter while I'm here.
My name is Linh. For everyone to joining the roundtable today, I am one of the 3 speakers. So for someone who joined in late, Sam had just talked about his company, and Kevin, obviously from Brinc, which is one of the hosts for this event, the Asia Healthcare Innovation Summit today. My name is Linh. I am the founder and CEO of Flextrapower. I was a scientist by training, doing my PhD from Columbia University in New York, and then I am jumping on the dark side of doing a business. And full disclosure, Brinc is an investor in my company. That was pre-Kevin era, but then it has been a great experience working with Brinc throughout the accelerator, and then during COVID, actually, we have a project working with Kevin.
Oh.
Looks like you might have dropped off.
We lost your lovely story, Lynn. I love how you are a storyteller.
Yeah.
And that happened. This happened to me. This happened to me before when someone trying to kick me out when I am in the middle of the story.
No problem.
Anyway, so yes, I was trying to say that this is a roundtable about startup company. This is the roundtable about are you really persisting with the idea? Are you trying to pivot? Are you, or you're gonna be perished? And then all 3, I would say, option are actually good option. Business will potentially die, but then I mean, the team and then the people always moved on. Throughout COVID, obviously, COVID has been affecting a lot of people. I have seen in my network, business die, business shut down, but then people are working on new idea. People are always find something to do, and then I am so interested to host this roundtable. And then actually, I would love to hear Sam talking about his story from Slider, and then just a little bit of context. And Slider are in the same cohort of Techstar, we were in the same accelerator with Techstar MedLife program from July to August of 2019. I have a chance to be friend with Sam. I love his story. I love how he is turning himself not only from a smoker to, I would say, non-smoker now, but then his background is really interesting. And then also from the other perspective, throughout COVID, we would not be able to raise any money, similar to Sam. But then at the same time, he keep on persisting. And then I think that we all seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. But before going into that, I would love to I do not know if the audience can talk. If the audience can talk, I would love to see the participation from the audience. I would not really want this one to be like the three of us, me, Kevin, and Sam, talking about different things. But then I would love to be interactive, because the three of us, we all run business, right? So we have been there, we have done that, and then I would love to hear from your experience. Is there any running a startup? Are you a consultant? Are you an investor? Feel free to put in the chat, or feel free to talk if you can.
Sure, great.
Lynn, I actually had a question for you. So
I'm here.
In your introduction, you said you crossed over to the dark side. And I want to talk about that for a second, right? Because during COVID, again, there's a lot of disruption in terms of how it's affecting startups, but also there's so much interesting technology being created through universities globally, and I think maybe this leads into how startups are adapting, but also people that are at the early stage of developing technology, how they can convert that into a business. So if you don't mind, I think that's something that really interests me is, that switch from research and technology development to actually turning it into a business.
Sure, I can definitely elaborate more on that one. When I'm saying dark side, it's really the dark era for the business development, for research. Obviously, all of the university are operating at the reduced capacity. All of the startup are one way or another affected by this crazy pandemic. I mean, if we are not having the pandemic, we will definitely be on stage. We will definitely be able to talk together in person, not on opt-in like this. But then at the same time, I think that there are two ways to look at the dark side. One is everything is too focused on COVID. If anything COVID related, if anything that is, is that the new treatment for COVID? It is like a new behavior changing for COVID. If anything can be related to COVID, then a lot of funding will come into the project. And then there might be some innovativeness, or like there might be some innovation coming out of that particular project. But then other than that, not a lot of work actually has been done on cancer research, for example. Not a lot of work has been done on semiconductor, for example. So obviously there is some disruption, or like there is some certain delay in technological advancement during COVID. But then it is great that vaccination is rolling out across the world right now. So we will be back to normal one way or another.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you. I guess, Sam, my question for you would be, how has your business had to change, or what have you had to do to persist, throughout the last year and a half, and how do you see your business moving forward through this period?
It was, thank you, Kevin. It was actually so hard, and it's a hard time for me and my family. I have 3 kids. I'm married, and I'm happily married. And I have 3 kids, and I had to survive the 1 year and a half trying to, do things aside to put food on the table. Although I believe that what we are targeting as a problem is by itself a big pandemic. Like still in the world, there is 1.3 billion smokers worldwide. specifically in Asia. We were part, as Linh said, of Techstars, which was really a great opportunity for us. First of all, I gained a great friend and a great person like Linh, and another co-founders and co-startups in that cohort. And second, it allows us to really persist and thrive, to continue and connect with other with more investors and be more gain more vision for Sliter. So the 1.5 years were really hard. Then starting, I believe, last summer, we were lucky to be on a program on entrepreneur.com, which is the elevator pitch, and one of those great investors there, he is interested in us, and they have an eye on us. And now as Linh said at the start, we are starting to see light at the end of the tunnel. So what we're targeting here is another type of pandemic, another type of problem that is persisting for years now. And I believe all the existing, I won't call it solutions, propositions, they're not changing the situation. So I was stubborn since the day one. I had the idea, connecting the smoker, connecting his habit, and this started a long time with me. And if I'll tell you the story, I started to smoke when I was 17. Then starting the age of 30, I started to try to quit, and I couldn't. I've tried everything on the market, and I couldn't do that. This is why I came up with this solution, which is would simulate the same way smokers start to smoke. You don't start to smoke 1 pack a day. You start gradually. You start with a puff with friends, then another cigarette, then 2, then 3, and then you reach somewhere where you cannot go back. So what we do, we help you go back like you started the stairs. So this is how we're surviving. And I believe that from now on, after COVID, people are going to be more focused on solutions that involve technology, that involves AI, that involves science to help them become healthier.
I think that's a great point. I mean, it's, as you mentioned, it's such a big separate pandemic in terms of, looking at how people are affected by cigarettes and smoking, and also just how rapid change can happen now with technology enabling change, right? The fact that AI is being developed rapidly, through hardware and product development, there's more options and opportunities to leverage existing platforms. I think for me, what I'm seeing is just the speed at which technology can change is creating all these new opportunities. So
Kevin,
yeah,
I have a follow-up question on this one. So obviously, what we are looking at over the past 18 months, actually we have a huge issue with the global supply chain. The business model has definitely changed. And then also on top of that, in March, we have the we have a blockage of Suez Canal. So from Brinc perspective, I'm sure that you have been taking a lot of study or following the news with the global supply chain. Do you have any thoughts on that one? And then going forward, would it be any change with global supply chain, especially for us and also for Sam? We are providing the hardware product, which is need to be shipped from one place to another we will always need to partner with a logistic company, and then supply chain is actually an issue. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that question. The first is, looking at the global supply chain. The fact is that there's a lot of centralized expertise and a lot of fields within Asia and specifically mainland China for manufacturing, which I do see more and more regional hubs popping up, although these are going to take time to develop, right? The infrastructure, the expertise, facilities. This is not something that you just turn a light switch on and it happens immediately. So although these solutions are popping up, it doesn't mean that every single product that you're trying to create, you can establish a regional supply chain. But long term, I certainly see more and more options being developed in which you could have a North America-based strategy for your supply chain, localizing it within the region. Within Europe, there's more and more solutions, especially in Eastern Europe. There's quite a few different areas that are quite cost competitive. And I think, Asia will still have, a leading expertise in it. But certainly, in terms of, that's on the manufacturing side, in terms of the shipping and logistics, from our point of view, I'm amazed at just how many solutions we look at in this space. And it's not the lack of ideas. What I'm seeing the challenge is how to scale these ideas. And that's really one of the things that we try and focus on when we do work with different startups or scale-up companies. It's how do we refine it in a way that you can deploy it globally, that you can get access to it from other regions. And there are a number of companies, I think, that are well on their way to do that. So I think you will see more and more coming to the market and more options in the future. But that's my point of view on it.
No, that's great, Kevin. Because obviously I have been talking with some other friends in my network who is running a hardware-based startup here in North America, and then they actually suffer a lot for the past few months due to supplier making the product, but then not able to ship it out of Asia, for example. And then they would have to go with made in America product, which is 5 times more expensive. And then at the same time, it might not be as good compared to the product, which has been potentially made in China. So what you are saying before actually is also the other way around too. We have a lot of potential company from Asia that is coming into this Roundtable, and then it's probably the same in a way that they might be looking into expanding the market to North America, to Europe. So essentially, it is the two-sided question, right? So in a way that global supply chain can actually help the company make things in Asia and ship globally, but then at the same time, helping the company in Asia reaching out to the global market, right?
Yeah. One last thing I'll add that, I see really changing moving forward the next few years is looking at additive manufacturing and how that's going to change the whole global economy for manufacturing. So not just using 3D printing technology for prototypes or low, but imagine using that same technology to run mass production, right? And the being able to do that virtually anywhere in the world, right? You could set up a small scale factory, to be closer to your clients. And this technology, there's a lot of work being done in terms of introducing new materials so that you can get production quality. Also, the technology itself needs to mature at a point where you can get the cost down, where the piece part pricing makes sense. But this is something that it's been in development for the last few years. This is not new due to COVID. It's just that technology is picking up enough that
Yep.
I see that being the big shift over the next 5 to 10 years as that technology matures.
Yep. No, that is great.
Yep.
And actually, let's come back to the persistence of how startups should be going into the post-COVID era. I would love to hear Sam thoughts on like you sitting in Raleigh. How do you potentially connecting to potential partnership? Is there any change in terms of how you are? I mean, you are not able to fly out to like customer or like partnership anymore, right? So
Yeah.
so would love to hear like how that have changed in terms of like the operation. Would love to hear your thoughts on that. So the audience might be jumping in and asking some question.
Well, this is a great point. Actually, Kevin mentioned the 3D printing, and I wanted to show you that we did 3D print our prototypes, our very first model, and we did a quantity of that. We're delivering this to UCSF. They are enrolling a research on smoking related to heart disease, and even the NIH very soon we're gonna deliver a bunch of those. So probably pivoting is a way to try to survive and try to keep everything alive. So in our case, I visited China like 4 times, and I locked down all our manufacturers there. Our device is a mechatronic device. It's a mechanical electronic device. So we have a PCB, we have a PCBA, and we have a lighter inside. It's a real gas lighter. And who is best than China and the other countries there in Asia to produce such devices? So we definitely can bring some of the products and build it here. But as you mentioned, the supply chain should be next to the manufacturer. And the more important thing is how to move the complete product to our markets. I believe that it's very hard to pivot from manufacturing in China, for us at least. So this is why in this period, I was trying to keep all our resources alive, probably order small quantities, and hopefully that in Q3, we will launch the manufacturing. So I kept them alive because they believe in what we are doing, and they believe that we will reach like high quantities of our product.
Actually, I need to do a sale project. So as you can actually see in the chat now, feel free to use the code Asia Healthcare Summit to knock off 15% off our graphene mask. Actually, the graphene mask is a totally new idea. I consider is actually as a pivot during COVID, and during the first and the second month of COVID hit, we had this idea that how the graphene material can actually work with can work in the mask. And then, as I was saying earlier, that Kevin and I were involving in a separate project. In a separate activity in order to see how we can grow this mask. And then actually, this is the pivot, but then we can definitely see that it is continuing to be a business. And then relate to what Sam has said earlier, we actually throughout this project, we grow a much stronger understanding, not only from the customer perspective around the globe, but then at the same time, we are working with a lot of suppliers in Asia, in Vietnam, in China, and also at the same time, we have a much better understanding on the logistic part as well. I would love to hear your thoughts. Sam,
I
go
would
ahead.
like to interrupt you to salute you on this pivot. I mean, this session is about pivoting and persisting, and I have to salute you because I was amazed how you could immediately bring to the table a really robust solution, and it's really good. I've tried it myself. It's really good. I'm not flattering here, but I salute you for the will. You have always the will to find another door and open it.
Thank you, Sam. Full disclosure, I know that both Sam and Kevin are the earliest customer with our project. The moment I sent out the email, I would say that within the first 24 hours, you both buy our product. Thank you again for that.
And I'm still using it today. But I don't want this to turn into us just talking about the product itself, which is amazing. But I think it raises another important point in terms of pivoting, right?
Yes.
And this is a good example. It's one thing to have the idea, right? And to think about how you need to change your business. It's another thing to take action. And I think for me, that's the one thing that I see is that it's not just being innovative and creative and brainstorming and having these great ideas. You need to back it up with action. And I think the companies that you see that have been able to survive, pivot, thrive in this environment are the ones that back it up. And for me, I think that's an important point for anyone watching or thinking about it. And that's what's going to drive the change. That's what's going to help you really move forward in this environment today and in the future.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I totally agree with you. Okay. We have a question from John. So he said that he has a rehab and assistive device for home base. He has some question with attracting investment from the production ready device. Sam, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on your current fundraising. How did you curate or nurture the relationship with the investor, and then how do you plan to potentially using this round of funding? Would it be production ready? And then keep it short, we have only a few minutes left, and then Kevin, from Brinc perspective as an investor, maybe you can answer this question as well.
Yeah, sure. For in our case, in Slighter case, we had to go through engineering, because what we're doing actually is connecting the fire, and the fire is the very first invention of humanity. So we had to do a lot of R&D and engineering until we reached to an MVP, and then we moved to the final model. They can check it actually on our website, slighter.com, which is ready for production. So being ready for production, depending on what type of hardware you have, and what type of engineering you need to reach there, and what are the hurdles that you need to solve before getting to a product ready to be manufactured. We spent a lot. We spent 2 years working on the R&D, and now because we are manufacturing ready, and because we are dealing with a problem that exists in every single country, in every single home, we could attract an investor in this space. And to talk about the wideness and the pivoting, I believe that we had a really very wide vision to capture other aspect of smoking, which is as well the cannabis users, and to monitor and manage this market as well, specifically the medical market of the cannabis using, attract more investors, because we can do both. So I believe before getting in front of any investor, you need to know really the phase where you are and what do you need to move to the next step. And being realistic in this and being so true about it will attract the right investor.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, and Samar partially added this in his response. I don't see investors investing in devices. It's not that they won't invest in a company that has a device, but the key is that they will invest in businesses that solve problems. You might solve that problem through the device, whatever it is within rehab and assistive, support. You need to be able to frame up what is the actual problem you're solving, why you're unique. And again, in this environment in particular, investors are looking very closely at the numbers. So understanding how big is your market, how unique is your solution and disruptive to the industry, how long is it going to take for you to actually, start generating revenue? These are all questions that they're going to be asking. So although I think it's great to hear that, you're at the point where you're production ready. That's a great stage. It's framing up the rest of your business, which is going to attract and help you secure investment.
And then actually, just to add a little bit more on that too, Kevin, I think that you can produce a lot of things, but then if you are not able to figure out the way to scale the sale or like how to sell that inventory, that would actually be another issue that you, John, need to take a look at as well. We have another question from Shashi on how to deal with investors who are hesitant to pivot. I mean, I am the living example. I suffer from it. And then, I mean, obviously, I had to talk to my investor that, hey, I know that the original business plan is this, but then due to COVID, we cannot do anything. At that time, we actually have 1 year of disruption within the hospital. Our original business idea was working on the connected insole that helping diabetic patients. For 1 year from April 2020 to last April, hospital was just 100% focused on COVID related. There was no more new clinical trial need to be done. So literally, we cannot do anything. So I have to tell my investor that, hey, I know that this is the pivot, but then we have two options. Either we are pivoting or we die. So back me up here. And then even if you back me up, I will do my best in my capacity in order to respect your money, in order to respect your trust in me as a founding team. But then that's the best I can do.
I just want to add to that every investor is a little bit different. Every situation is a little bit different. But one thing that, at least what I've seen in the market, is I have seen a lot of empathy in terms of understanding that this is a very unique time within the business world. And as Linh mentioned, in a lot of cases, it's not pivot because I feel like doing something different. It's pivot so my business and your investment can survive, or else we will not be able to continue. So I think a lot of investors are empathetic to, we understand we need to weather this storm, and those investments that we have that survive, we want to make sure that we support them long term as well. So that's definitely one of my perspectives on this.
Very well said, Kevin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kevin, do you need to go somewhere after this session?
I'm more than happy to stay another 5 or 10 minutes.
Sure.
That's
great.
It's great that people are asking questions, and glad to answer any of those that are directed my way.
Kevin, you are the investor. Why don't you answer Subhash's question on cash flow positive, and then the number of user, daily, monthly, churn, all of those things. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, so I think it really depends on what stage your business is at, right? So again, for Brinc, we're an early stage venture accelerator. It's rare that we make investments in companies that have any positive cash flow because we're early stage investors. We're there to help them to get to that point, But if you're a later stage company, if you're looking for a Series A or beyond, it is more and more important, And right now with the current environment, investors although you might have a great innovative idea with a lot of upside, they are likely going to be more reluctant unless you can validate that you have a sustainable business, that you are generating cash flow, that you do have, users that are continuing to increase, right? So it's getting more and more competitive. So as you look at later stage investment, certainly important. Early stage, again, I think there's an understanding that, for us, we don't have an expectation of positive cash flow as you come into an accelerator at pre-seed or seed, right? So it's just setting expectations and knowing your audience, who you're talking to, and the appetite of that investor to go at an earlier stage investment, or if they purely invest later stage.
And also, I think it is really depending on the vertical or the industry as well. So if you're talking about consumer, user related, then the metric would be totally different from other user. So again, I think it's just based on the information that you are presenting. Yeah, it really depends.
Yeah, great. Well, I've definitely enjoyed this session, and I hope also enjoyed it. Again, there's a lot of opportunity out there, right? But a lot of it does require understanding that the market has changed, and pivoting is an important part, not just for startups, but for even established businesses. So I've enjoyed the time. I don't know if Linh or Simmer, you'll continue, but I hope you guys have a great day.
Yes, of course. Okay, great night. We are joining in super late at
That's
night
right.
here in the US.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. It was a pleasure meeting you, meeting you, like they say. Len, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I would add on Kevin's last word, something that is, there is a lot of problems to solve in the world. Approaching those problems with real solutions and always pivoting to focus on the problem and the solution more, they will never need to perish. Who would perish is either someone who just got to the end of the road, or who didn't want to continue. Persisting on solving the problem is the solution.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you guys.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you. Have a great
Bye,
day.
guys.
Good night,
Bye.
Lynn.